Hi everyone, this is Umair from Cuba GRE Prep, and this video is part of a 4-part video series on the GRE at home. In this video series, we discuss everything GRE at home. So from the registration process to the actual test experience to key insights from the test to how the test at home compares with the test at center experience. So in the first part, we cover the registration process and we demonstrate all the steps involved in the registration process. In the second part, we talk about what happens immediately before and during the test. So that involves all the pre-test formalities and the things that you have to take care of during the test. And in the third part, I discuss some of the key learnings from the test. So that part mostly deals with what are the ways in which you can best prepare for the test at home experience. And in the final part, I talk about whether the test at home experience had a positive or negative impact on my score, and how did this experience compare with my test at center experience from 4 years ago. So you can find the links to all the parts in the description below, and I hope you'll enjoy these videos. So I recently took the GRE at home, and I'm making this video to share my test experience with you guys and also to share some of the key learning points from my experience. So without further ado, let's get to the point. So the first thing that has to be kept in mind is that the test features itself are exactly the same as the test that you take from the ETS GRE test center. So the test software is exactly the same, the same test format, the same order of sections, same UI, the same test options such as review, mark, etc. So the test features themselves are exactly the same because the software is the same. What makes the GRE from home different from the test center experience are the formalities that you have to take care of before and during and after the test. So first of all, I'm going to guide you through my own test experience, and then I'll share some points, some important things to keep in mind that I learned during the test experience. So the process itself looked like this. So you log into your Proctor account, and there's a countdown that shows you how much time is left in the beginning of the test. So when that countdown comes to 0, the countdown slot changes into a button, the start session button. So keep in mind that you cannot start the session until the countdown comes to 0. So there is no way for you to get done with all the pre-test formalities a day or two prior to the test. So you will have to do that immediately before the test. So when it is time for your test and the start session button has appeared, you click that button and then you go through a series of steps. So some of the important things that you have to do during those initial steps are equipment testing. So the Proctor website automatically tests your equipment. That includes testing your webcam, your microphone, your speaker, and also your internet speed. Then in another step, you're asked to permit access to your webcam, your speaker, microphone, also to allow screen sharing, and also give access of your system to Proctor. So the Proctor would be able to scroll around your screen and open or close windows, etc. In another step, a photograph of yourself and your government issued ID is taken. So basically a headshot is taken using your webcam, and you have to hold your ID in front of your webcam. In a subsequent step, you have to download a chat box which is called Log Me In. You don't have to do anything extra. The downloading option just appears on your screen and you just have to allow it, and the chat box, the Log Me In chat box, gets downloaded, and the purpose of this chat box is communication with the Proctor. So all of the communication that happens with the Proctor that invigilates your test, that happens through that chat box. So the Proctor chats with you by typing in that chat box, and you can respond by either typing or verbally, because your mic and your camera is accessible to the Proctor, but the Proctor themselves is not visible to you, and they just respond to you by typing in that chat box. So when you download that chat box and open it, the chat box starts to establish your connection with the Proctor, and that process takes some time, so you have to wait a few minutes before the connection is established. So once the connection with the proctor is established, the proctor asks you if you have any questions before the test. So if you have any queries, you can ask them at that point, or you can even ask them later. So I had a few queries related to what I can place on my test table, and also if I can eat during the test. The proctor also asks you to show around your room, so you have to give a 360-degree view of your room. If you're using the laptop's inbuilt webcam, you have to pick up your laptop and rotate it 360 degrees so that the proctor can see the room. If you're using an external webcam, you can just rotate that device. And you also have to show the space beneath the table on which you're taking the test. So the proctor can make sure that there is nothing unnecessary under or on or around the space in which you're taking the test, and also that there is nothing that can help you during the test. You also have to show your laptop screen using a handheld mirror or the front camera of your mobile phone. So you can use either of the two. So you have to place the mirror in front of your camera so that the proctor can see the reflection of your laptop screen in that mirror. So that is a step that you have to go through. I did not have a handheld mirror, so I used my mobile phone. But with mobile phone, it becomes a little cumbersome because you have to adjust the angles, and that is a bit cumbersome. With the mirror, of course, it'd be easy, so I'd recommend that. The proctor also asks you to show your note-taking material. So if you're using a whiteboard, you have to hold the whiteboard in front of your camera and show it to the proctor, and you also have to flip it and show the back side of it. A proctor wants to make sure that there's nothing written on the whiteboard before the test. And if you're using a laminated paper, then you have to show that in the same manner. One thing that I learned the hard way was that the size of the note-taking pad, whether it's a whiteboard or it's a laminated piece of paper, the size has to be small. So it cannot be a full-size whiteboard that you place on a stand. It has to be a small-sized whiteboard that you can hold up in your hand and show to the proctor through your webcam, or something that you can place in your lap or in your hand and write on it. So since I did not know that before the test, I was using a full-length whiteboard, like a 4 by 3 feet thing that stood on a stand, and the proctor immediately disallowed that. So I had to come up with a makeshift solution at the last moment. So keep that in mind, that the whiteboard has to be a small-sized thing that can be held up and shown to the proctor. You also have to pull up your sleeves and show your forearms and elbows, and also bring your camera close to your ears and show your ears to the proctor, and show that you're not using any device or anything. So that is also something that you have to keep in mind before the test. And also do not wear any wristwatch because you'll have to remove it. And so in the last step before the test, the proctor asks for the permission to navigate around your screen using your mouse. Since the proctor has the access, and checks if there are any windows that are open and closes those windows, and also goes into your display settings to check if there are any additional screens connected to your laptop, because that is not allowed. So once the proctor has checked all the windows and settings, then the proctor opens your ETS test browser, which you have to download before the test. All of those pre-test requirements are there on the ETS website, so do check them out before the test and make sure that you have everything downloaded. So the proctor opens the ETS browser and logs you into the browser using the username and password that the proctor has. So you cannot log into the test on your own. The proctor does it for you. So once the test begins, the process is pretty similar to what you experience at the test center. However, testing from home is a little bit more inconvenient because of a few factors. The foremost being the cumbersome note-taking process. So at the actual test center, you have a scratch paper and you can use it and it gets replaced. But at home, you have to do all the note-taking on a surface so that the notes can be erased. So you'll have to keep writing and erasing and writing and erasing, so that thing wastes time. So that makes the testing from home a little bit more inconvenient and a little harder than your test at center experience. The breaks that you get during the test are also the same as the ones that you get at the center. So 1 minute break between all of the sections and a 10 minutes break in the middle of the test. However, you cannot leave your seat during the 1 minute breaks. You can leave your seat during the 10 minutes break. However, once you return to the test, you'll have to show your room again, and you'll have to show the space beneath your table again, and all of those things. And when that 10 minutes break is over, the proctor resumes the test for you. So you cannot resume the test on your own. So once that timer runs out and it shows 0 on the screen, the remaining sections do not start on their own. This is different from the test at center, because when you're taking the test at the center, once the timer runs out, the next section after the 10 minutes break starts on its own. Here you'll have to ask the proctor to resume the test for you. You have to ask the proctor verbally, because the chat box is minimized at that point, because you're in the test browser. So you have to verbally ask the proctor to resume the test for you. And do not panic if the proctor does not respond initially, because sometimes the proctor takes some time to respond. So do not try to resume it on your own. Do not try to minimize the test browser or anything, because you're not allowed to navigate windows once your test has begun. So just remain calm and ask the proctor to resume the test. And so once you end the test, you either report it or you do not report it. And if you choose to report your test score, you're asked to submit the names of 4 institutes that you would want to send your scores to, free of cost. And once you do that and your test ends, you tell the proctor that your test has ended, and the proctor then asks you to show the note-taking equipment that you were using. And so you have to show the whiteboard or the paper that you were using. You have to hold it up and erase the whiteboard in full view of the proctor. So you have to erase everything from the note-taking pad, from the whiteboard, and then you have to show to the proctor that there's nothing written on it now. You also have to show the back side, and once the proctor has made sure that there's nothing written on it, the proctor ends the test for you and then asks you to give them your feedback. Then the whole thing ends. And so this whole test taking exercise takes around 5.5 to 6 hours, which is an hour longer than your test at center experience, and that is primarily because of the formalities that you have to go through before the test. So bear that in mind, that it is going to be longer than what you experience at the test center.